Again, MDF, this is where we want to be, right? If we're going to pull out these victory royales, we want those to happen a little sooner in the day, right? Because that's momentum, that's confidence, that kind of instills us with a new fire that we can take into the remaining games. And Kelly, we've seen Scarenosis before, so I'm not surprised to see him in a situation where they can take it to a win. Obviously, a heal off, that's a strategy to win. So I'm glad to see that they kind of even though it kind of looked kind of shambly, it's like, hey, no, Zeke, we got the med kit. We're taking it to heal off. We know what you're doing. Stay over there as a host.
I like that you say confidence when talking about this duo, because I think that they needed a big game for them to kind of build up some confidence to go from their grand finals and get 16th place, literally just outside of the threshold of going to Dusseldorf, had to have been a hit on their confidence. But then, of course, having the second chance announced, getting to come through the qualifiers, and then now winning game number 2, that is what we wanted to see. But, you say, Zeke, that we saw them in shambles, but for me, this late high ground take, dropping down to grab some refreshes. Yes, there was an unfortunate elimination onto Scare, but Osid played that high ground so well as a solo Vivid.
Osid and Scare said, hold up, Liam and Jace, you guys are on to something with that little bit of a late high ground take. They copied it straight from their playbook, instilled it in game number 2, and it worked out perfectly for them. And honestly, even after watching grand finals this weekend, I feel like we didn't really see that many heal offs, or it didn't really feel like there was plenty of them. So to see a heal off early on in this competition just kind of speaks that how crazy this competition is right now and how bad some of these teams really want it.
Yeah, man. I mean, typically we don't see it come to that often. So these players are taking this extremely serious, right? This second chance means everything right here, right now. That was game number 2. We still have 4 more games to go before we say goodbye. So for now, a break. When we return, game 3 will be ready shortly. So don't you go anywhere. We'll see you right after this.
Me right.
Fortnite fam, to the second chance qualifier. Game number 2 going to Scare and OSID. Big momentum for them, and we still have 4 games left to go. Of course, in first place is not Scare and OSID, though. It's actually Liam and Jace that are leading by 30 points. Kelly, Viv, Liam and Jace in just the first 2 games. First place, 8 elims. In this last game, second place with 2 elims. They are kind of keeping that consistency alive right now as far as placement is concerned. Obviously, in this last game, you know, we kind of wish we'd maybe had a little more points in terms of eliminations, but a second place is still mega points.
I mean, you say that, but why? They're in first place right now. Whatever they're doing, they need to keep doing it. I mean, eliminations definitely is important and definitely one of the win conditions for some of our players. But I don't think that's the case for Liam and Jason. When you look at their history, Liam has 5 FNCS Finals appearances and Jace has 0. So again, one of those players that could potentially be going to Dusseldorf without ever playing a Grand Finals would be absolutely wild of it.
Yeah, it would be awesome to kind of see that. We did talk a little bit about predictions for what we think the point threshold is going to be for top 7. I think we kind of guessed around 260 here on NA, which would be kind of similar to EU. These guys are already on 160 points, and we have only played 2 games, which means that if that prediction comes through, they only need 100 points over the course of the next 4 games. So they are off to a splendid start.
Oh, man, that's what I like to hear, Vivian. Give me more stats like that. Let's bring up those standings again as we continue to talk about more duos who performed well in this last game. Shadow and Virgo, we saw them there for a moment. 3rd place in this last game. We got an 8th place with 5 elims, right? So again, 8's not super high placement, but we are picking up eliminations. We just got to string these consistencies together, right, Kelly? And if what he said is true, this is another duo that isn't really that far away from qualifying, if those numbers are true.
I mean, this is definitely a bit more of a return to form that we saw from Shadow and Virgo compared to game number 1, where we did see them grab a few mid-game eliminations and then convert that into a good low ground end game, but unfortunately did not have the game that they wanted to go. If I'm not mistaken, one of them actually ended up going to a solo. It was actually Virgo who was trying to go up the backside of Storm to steal height, but went down really quickly. It was actually Shadow that did that, but Virgo did end up eventually going down as well. So I love the play there. It looked like they were a little bit more confident in it, which is what we want to see out of them, but just a tiny little misstep on when to steal height there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the name of the game today over the course of these 6 games is just going to be consistency. I think a 3rd and an 8th puts them right where they want to be. They're definitely on track. I mean, you can't complain with them being in 3rd place right now. So Shadow and Virgo, even though we haven't really seen them have that pop-off high elim game that we were kind of talking about expecting them to have, they're still doing very, very well. So be on the lookout for that high elim game, because when that does happen, if it does, they're going to fly at the leaderboard.
I like it. I like the vivid predictions. There was also something interesting that happened at the start of this last game that involved a door. Kelly Link, can you walk us through that, please?
Well, it looked like Curly and Rise were kind of having a little bit of a difficult start to their game right there. Curly was actually knocked, but you know, when you're knocked, it doesn't mean that it's over just yet. With this new mechanic of being down, he was able to kind of flip-flop over to this door right here and be a little bit of a bait. If we're talking about fish, well, I think of bait, Vivid. And what is better than getting a refresh, an early elimination onto someone like Curly? Well, how about I stop you right there, Kiffy? No, you are going to get eliminated by Curly, who is down. Unfortunately, doesn't get the elim, but what a great play.
Hook, line, and a sinker. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't sure that it was possible that you could knock somebody while you are knocked yourself, but that's what I'm talking about. NAC always delivers, always teaching us things over here.
We really do have it all. With that being said, game number 3 is ready for us. Let's hop back into all of the action with our casters. Take it away.
I've never been more thankful for our analyst, Zeke, to really unsolved mysteries here. We were figuring out, how did Curly get the elim? How did that guy go down? Was it a disconnect? Because the elim didn't go to the other team, but our mystery has been solved.
Yeah, that was crazy. I couldn't have guessed it was the door. Dude, I was just laughing in my head like, he definitely had a power outage, but we were so wrong. It was even more epic than that. You know what? That might be the elim of the year. I know we talked about clutches and all that stuff, but that surely was super impressive.
Yep, and as this one continues to shake down, man, top 7 get even more interesting. 98 points looks like it's the line after 2 games, and we're coming up on game number 3, Monster. It's not the halfway point until it's over, but it's a pivotal point in the entire tournament because how you get to play is dictated by where you stand on the leaderboard.
Yeah, and looking at the leaderboard, that top 7 right now is definitely shaping up with teams that we expect to be there. So the experience are starting to heat up, and it sounds like the battle bus is ready. So let's do it one more time.
We have big names inside of that bubble, Monster. We have big names outside of that bubble. These teams were given a second chance here to qualify for the Major 1 Summit. And these teams that qualify today, not only on this region and Essential, but everyone throughout the day will go directly to day 2, waiting for 25 of those teams after day 1. And those will be the teams we see. Bucky, Zen, could they be one of them? So far, they split this drop spot in game number 1, Monster. In game number 2, they took the fight to Kicks and their opponent to get those eliminations, which honestly helped them a bunch. We really saw the difference in how their Storm Surge was and how they were able to play out the rest of that game. They went for high ground in both of those games. It didn't necessarily work out for them, but their team, honestly, Monster, Bucky, and Zen, I think they're going to go for high ground every single game they get a chance to.
Yeah, I don't blame them. They're earning points, you know, they haven't been able to convert it into a win, but one thing's for certain, if you play Ultimate Height like that and you know you're going to gas out a material, one thing's for certain is that you are going to earn placement points. And I think they're content with that because top 7 is pretty gracious, right? If you can keep making end games and finding eliminations. That was really interesting, though. For Bucky, I just noticed that they didn't actually force the fight in the early game, so this might affect their surge. You saw how it affected them game 1. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. Rising Curly, though, obviously they have a single elimination here, so probably swatting someone out the sky before he ends up touching down. Let's see what's happening on the other side of the map for Skittles. Cam, nice little clutch for him there. Finds 2 eliminations.
Big Elim there. You're kind of seeing, depending on the bus path for a drop like this, it really shows, do you land at the actual building? Do you land at the mountain towards the north? And because they landed at the mountain towards the north, you guys saw it a second ago, you see it in the mini map, that allows for the other team contesting this spot to try to lurk in. And now Skittles, oh my gosh, going left instead of right. Those little differences. Again, Cam doesn't even know what he just escaped by going out the door instead of looting the rest of that building.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. Just turns the corner, 2 skeletons or boxes on their heads jump out of nowhere, just ready to catch you. Well, for Volts, I'm sure they're regretting not opening fire when they had the chance to. Either way, though, Skittle and Cam are very much situated right now as one of the teams that will be making it to top 7 if they can remain as consistent as they have been. So better for them that they weren't caught early now here at the Battlewood Boulevard.
I got to agree with that because even though they do have those 2 eliminations, they were early game eliminations. So the maximum amount of surge they could possibly have here is about 200, maybe a little bit more if they found minis, bandages, or anything like that. But I don't think that was the case. So for Skittles, for Cam here, one big shot, even if they get the elimination here on the Volts and his teammate down below, could change the course of their game in terms of Storm Surge. See how that one continues to play out. But as one fight slow, Monster, we know not every fight like that is going to be the case. We tune in and instantly it looks like Mopping and Max's go down.
Big eliminations there. Kale, Saf set themselves up for a big game ahead of them now. These are quick elims too. Look at all the loot they get to sit on right now. Big damage. And the zone pretty much on their side. So talk about finding a key opportunity to try to come back in the tournament. This is your chance to do so.
Seeing a few teams here that need to come back. Some need a little bit more of a comeback than others. But, you know, as Josh was clutching up, I was talking about the 18th place Josh and Yamzo had in game number 1. They only had 2 eliminations, so they really didn't have those points to make up for it. But Josh by himself clutches out a 5th place, 4 eliminations to really put them in contention. and Cam. They returned back to the scene of the crime, and it doesn't even look like Volts and them really were able to get much loot. They were lurking around, hoping that Skittles and Cam made a mistake, but they came back, and they made no mistakes. They get 2 more eliminations, 100 damage off of Cam, but overall, with 4 eliminations, they have to be sitting pretty. 2 more possibly along the way as Dragon and Creon hear the noise, and they third party.
I mean, this is kind of crazy because Dragon and Creon haven't successfully earned points just yet, so this is a pretty big fight right now that they're trying to set themselves up for. Seems like they see all the wild builds coming out and they don't want to stick around too much longer there, but that could have went really bad. Take a look at this one more time from Skittles' perspective. Just gets jumped on like we knew would happen, but his reaction speed was super fast. He escapes out of there.
Yeah, I like the opportunity that they took. Just got to be able to at least get the elimination, play with the numbers afterwards. But Skittles and Cam got to be looking good. 4 elims in the early game. Keys and Diego. This is a team that we saw last game go down to Surge. And it's really telling when you're below that threshold, when you kind of lose control over your game, playing how desperate you kind of go from there. For Diego and Keys, they were forced into a desperate situation, having to bum rush into the open onto the first team that they saw. But this time around, they continue to take damage. They just need to find a way out of it. Down goes the Mist to try to go ahead and get the shield back up in play. Diego is taking charge, trying to hold on to their builds. Out goes the Pizza. That's Foxy, that's Kugo that they got taken shot from. Jason Liam as well. So Dark Dominion may not have started as contested as it is, but as time passes, more and more teams rotate on over.
Yeah, Jason Liam listening to all this go down, but then all of a sudden they become the targets of a fight. Jace almost caught and boxed up like a fish, but he manages to slide out the side. Liam's putting up an excellent defense here. He actually drops Issue with a huge shotgun shot there, and all of a sudden they turn the entire table around, and it's their team who's now on the offense here. Issue tries to crawl away, but it's not going to be enough.
That's a heartbreaking moment right there, because it was looking so good. It was looking so good for G-Money and Issue. They were third-partying, crashing in, trying to get some damage, but it just did not work out. Jason Liam able to turn that one around, and that's big. It just goes to show that Jason Liam not going down without a fight. 161 points coming into this game. They were first on the consistency leaderboard. They have a win already. They have 5 average eliminations per game and an average placing of 1.5. So they honestly, Vivid said it, they need to do the bare minimum to really close out the day. So going down there would have started the pressure cooker.
I mean, look, one thing, you know, we're seeing right now is that they're playing exceptionally well, you know. Getting a win is, okay, you could chalk it up to luck, then getting second place, then clutching a fight like that when you're boxed up and they have piece control over you, and you still turn that entire situation around. I mean, they're playing absurdly well right now. And this is all still happening, by the way, at the Dark Dominion. If you just glance over at the map, you can see how many teams are here, all of which are essentially in their little own skirmishes against themselves. Keys and Diego have the bit of the high ground here over Fogsy and Kugo, but no one's giving this up without a real fight to the end.
Yeah, dude. Sitting there talking about the amount of teams, I can see 4 teams, it looks like, directly in Dark Dominion. Another 4 teams on the outskirts. So if you find a way to survive this, it's still not going to be easy rotating on out, especially if your primary source of rotation is going to be those shockwaves. Once you're flying through the open, kind of leaves you susceptible to taking damage. And I think Diego and Keys kind of know, going up out of Dark Dominion, especially with how much time it's actually taken, it's going to be hard. Especially with more and more teams lurking around. Northern, Caliper, they're here as well. They're already underneath, trying to catch anybody off guard. And that's why you see them lurking around. Northern trying to minimize the audio visuals that he's given up, because there's danger around every single one of these corners. The shining moment for a lot of these teams, though, Monster, is it is in zone, so they don't necessarily have to move just yet.
A little concerned there. I saw Shadow and Virgo just showing up, taking a bit of high ground there. Obviously, again, with how well Liam is playing, could see a clash between the top 7 teams going head to head. For Kale, Savs, they're continuing their dominance. Another set of eliminations here. Already at 12 points here. Came in with nothing. Earning more and more.
And usually going down, you know, when you get the reboot card, you reboot your teammate, you didn't necessarily have to worry about Surge, because when you got rebooted, it kind of cleared it. A clean slate, it restarts. As of a couple of weeks ago, you know, watching, you know, Ozzy stream, we kind of learned that that's no longer the case. Today, we figured out that when you go down, get rebooted, all your Surge remains the same. So if it wasn't bad losing your teammate, getting a max pull across the map, it actually does get a little bit worse, and it kind of forces these players to instantly start to get proactive of how they're going to make up that Storm Surge gap. For Rise and Curly, they're going to be one of those teams that doesn't necessarily have to worry about it. They got 2 eliminations. It's about how they're going to get the zone without taking too many shots.
Yeah, no one should get comfortable with that, though. Obviously, I feel like the most experienced are conditioned to just play it out. Never lose your teammate. Assassin kill, though. Look at this aggression here. And I like this a lot because they need to make up the points. And it's 4 points for the eliminations, right? So this really does start to rack up. We already know the significance of getting these elims here.
I like the way you say that too, because usually, you know, I wait till game 3 is over. I wait for the halfway point, see where they're at in the leaderboard. I'm like, okay, this team has to get aggressive. This team needs to do the bare minimum. While this team might need just 1 win. Why wait until the halfway point? Give yourself a realistic chance. If they can somehow in this game pull up a 10 elimination victory royale, that'll be at least 100 points. It'll definitely bolster their chances and probability to making it into the Summit Land. But for Jibes, Causers has already went down. He has to wait. He has to wait for that team to rotate on out to give himself a good opportunity to get that reboot card and get his team back into the game. The zone is forcing that team away, so there will be ample time to make that be the case.
Things are heating up now, though. Surge is going to start giving the players their warnings here. Zifta, 300 above, 20 in help on the other side. A team that is in the qualification range right now. He fell short just in that last game, kind of getting stuck here at that 68 points. Small mistake right there on the shockwave, but it's not going to be the end of the world. It's kind of interesting, though, for them to be disengaging right now, even though they're not exactly the safest from the Surge line. Threats and Veer continuing to have that issue as well. You haven't been dominant in damage, but overall they've been better after game number 1. Look at Kale and Saps. They keep keying everything. This is crazy.
That's another one on the issue as well. So for G-Money, he already got the guy back up once. He's going to have to do it again. He does look like Kale and Saps. We're looking to rotate on out, but G-Money gives up those audio visuals. He's able to get the reboot card, probably necessary because you see he only has 200 gold, so he will not be able to purchase it as he's sitting right back up. Does look like he's going to try to get the reboot, but for Saps and Kale, they realize the zone is pulling further and further away. When we were watching Threads, we saw he was like at the edge of zone over towards Scribbly, and we're already in the 5th. So it's going to be 2 tick of damage per second you stay in the storm. And if they're here when the 6th zone pops, it's going to be 5 damage.
Oh, look at that. That timing, though, is because the reboot van went off right as they were going to that blob just to make the rotates. Just ends up working out. Good timing. You have Cam and Skittler. Little high ground position here. 4 elims. We saw them get those early elims off their drop spot. Clearly, it's paid into their benefit now. You have some decent damage. Bucky and Zen on the other side. How's it looking for the boys? Keeping it interesting for us as they continue to fight bright. Ooh, pressure's on, though. It's cost them a lot of heals here. So clearly the rotates not the cleanest.
Yeah, like I said, 3 different zones so far. That's got to be a blessing. One going all the way towards the south of the eastern lean. Last game we had the north. This time we got a little bit towards the southwest. Zen and Bucky again, 200 above the damage threshold, but you see empty item slots, far pulls. Bucky getting dropped down to 28 HP. And as the next zone does appear, you see the Storm Surge threshold. They're now 240 below. They're going to end up on the stack side of the zone, so there is going to be chances, but those chances are going to come with its own risk.
Yeah, I like what they did, though, using the shockwaves to get up and over the mountain to save as much material as possible. I mean, they're already light, but you just have this team on height right here with a perfect view down. They have to do something about this, either contest them or something, but you can't keep letting them shoot for free like this.
Start to see a team of the third party too as they inch closer and closer to Mason and Aiden. In the distance, they see it. They could try to fire shots in that direction. Even if they bleed shot through, that is success for other teams in this lobby. But Bucky and Zen, they are on a clock. Aiden and Mason on the other side, they're 566 above the damage threshold. They don't need this fight, but they might not necessarily have a choice because now Storm Surge is active. Every 7 seconds, 25 damage. Bucky and Zen are on a clock, but there goes a good beam coming out from Bucky, but they're still below that threshold.
That was a sick lineup right there, but couldn't get enough damage. Just 130 below now. They still have overdrives. Into the box they go, and they're fully committing here onto Mason. Just missed one of the more important shots, but they get the follow-up there. And all of a sudden now they are back in the game, and they catch Mason before he can actually stop and heal. So they will also get rewarded with a pizza box to talk about the most optimal loot you could have found in a situation here.
Just unfortunate for Bucky and Zen. Another far pull does not get any easier. They instantly have to open up, Shockwave out. You see when it comes to the heals, they're at the bare minimum. They had to use most of that pizza just to get their HP and shield up for this rotation. Osid scared coming off a big win, 139 points so far on that leaderboard, but they're barely above themselves. Yes, 19 players do need to go down. If you have the heals, you can out heal it, but that's not going to be the case here for Osid and Scare.
Yeah, look at this. The rotate has to come down and over. I like that play. Knows that he can't stay exposed for too long. Still, they got much more damage. Meanwhile, they find Bobby here. Straight piece of
mic.
Oh no.
Even after
all that damage they found onto Bobby was not enough to obviously alleviate the full damage of the surge here. Scare's still solo right now, 37 below. Finds Taki in the storm, tries to do the same thing to him, but Taki playing a little bit sharper. The lobby turns in, down he goes. Taki gets rewarded with the points there too.
Saber's just tough because even though he does get the elim, the points, can clean up the loot, doesn't mean his position's any better. Stuck inside of the zone and a max pull on top of that. For Yamzo and Josh though, again, back-to-back games where they're over 500 damage above the threshold. They land at the top of the mountain, so they don't have very many off-spawn opportunities. They have to get their damage while rotating all the way down to Riptides. Not gonna be the easiest thing in the world, but they're figuring out a way to make it work. Threats as well. You've seen a whole different show from him coming in this game. Instead of down surge, they're 700 above. And you're really seeing a lot of the teams that we saw in either previous games or early on in this one that were in a bad position really picking up the pace. Bucky and Zen, 200 above, and now they have a whole different loadout.
They have not gotten lucky with the zones at all. Look at how many shockwaves they've used time in and time out just to continue to try to get to the safe zone. That's going to be the last of their mobility and pretty much the last of their heals as well here. Zen trying to figure out where is Bucky. Has no clean pathway towards him. Doubles back to his base for now. And each side just going to play this one out as a solo for here. Oh yeah, look, Zen's name way off to the west side here. So they're on two opposite sides right now. It's gonna be super important for Zen right now to try to hit these shots here. That's gonna keep him in the game. He gets one though. That's a huge moment of relief here. And even if he falls, even if he can just do enough damage for Bucky, that's gonna be the difference that's gonna allow Bucky to have some time to build a runway for himself. 7 players have to fall now. This is crazy.
Brings a whole new meaning to living life on the edge right now. 9 HP, peaks on over. Good damage as well. Just really needs an elimination here for the Siphon or to find a pile of loot that somebody did left behind. That one's going to be an harder case. Rise, Curly, 1,200 damage above the threshold. Curly having 3 eliminations here. And we're now in the top 23, which means placement points with every team that does go down are going to fly in at a rapid pace. But for Curly and Rise, they kind of got blessed a little bit on this rotation. Multiple teams going to have to use those shockwaves to get up and over them, including Bucky, who loses Zen along the way. So there's a lot of pressure on him to perform. They made up for their blunders in game 1 with a Zen clutch, but now Bucky's going to have to share that role.
Yeah, you can see the pressure starting to kick in there. A couple missed edits, missed builds for Bucky. Virgo left to clutch this one up by himself as well. I saw Shadow fall there. Zen's down, Bucky's down now. They're gonna finish just outside the big placement points here. 22nd for them. Virgo playing the cone here. He still has plenty to work with. He's in a much better position to try to clutch this one up. Golden and Ozone, this is the second time now they've actually gone for height. This time, they're actually successful up top. They're at 112 points. Keep in mind, with Scare and Osid out the game, too, that's the second place coming into this is down and out. So that's going to start crunching down the numbers on the standings here.
Second out of the game, fourth place separated, fifth place having struggles. Yeah, Amzo's down again. You said it yourself. So Josh, outside of the top 20, forced to have back-to-back games with a solo clutch. New player for Elite Esports, and really now it's time to earn that respect that you deserve. Virgo as well, flying through third place on the leaderboard. Big shots going to land, but not enough to actually get the elimination. But he's not getting greedy here, Monster. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, you know, other players would stay there, try to go toe-to-toe and take the fight, but he wants to play some points. He's trying to play a smart. Eoxy dips into the storm, trying to do the same thing. Liam is just looking to stay alive right now. Liam is clutching up game after game. He did it last round. He's doing it once again. Little zone on his side here to go in and push him right back into the other side, but a team's on the other side of the wall. This is going to be a hard one to stay alive with, but these builds, most of them are his. How much more does he have to work with? No, stuck in the middle. Down he goes, top 15. Josh is in the same position now, 2 teams right above him.
Cam's going for height, Skittles going for a height, with Golden and Ozones for a little bit, until Cam slams him out of the lobby, gets the elimination, and now they've taken the high ground. 154 points and counting. They have 8 eliminations here. I'm not sure how many teams down below are going to be brave enough to try to contest up above. You see Rise, you see Dragon. Virgo finally goes down. He was a solo. That's Chimp and Liam who actually clean up that elimination. Craze gets one as well, but Josh is still running wild. 44 HP. He has a dream right now, Monster, and he is dreaming big. Hopefully it doesn't become a nightmare, but he continues to go up different layers here. That's going to put him in the limelight for high ground. Instantly gets shot back down low. He has to hide behind this build. That's a whole nother team on the other side, but nobody's peeking. Josh finds recycled builds that is his own. A big shot on Aox, but it gets stolen. No. Skittles steals away the Elim.
Oh my gosh, that would have been the most important Elim for him, but look at this. Josh does end up getting some late siphon there from something else. Either way, Josh is making the biggest plays of his career right now. This is going to potentially send him to land. You know, it's the difference right now. Clutching up in moments like this, when you have such a long way to go. All these teams are jumping in with having a monstrous amount of elims, though. This is going to shake up the standings through to the end. 180 points now for Cam and Skittles. They have jumped themselves into a whole new atmosphere here, and they still have a lot left in the tank.
Yeah, and this is after this one's over. It's going to be the halfway point, so you got to be smiling ear to ear, knowing that you have a little bit more control over your destiny. Scam dropping all the extra heals to Skittles, saying, hey, if this comes down to a heal off, you are going to be the guy. You've taken less storm damage, or hopefully they calculated correctly, so Cam will be the one to drop down low, play Disruptor if it does come down to it. Craze and King also underneath, but they're that ultimate low team, and they have some extra build. They're kind of hoping and praying that this zone doesn't pull them over a mountain.
That's kind of crazy, you know, coming into this game, we saw Dragon with no eliminations, no points, nothing earned. All of a sudden now he finds himself inside the top 5. This is the kind of performance you are looking for. This is the one that you're hoping you can find for the next couple of games to send yourself to the land. Corvina jumps in, unfortunately couldn't quite get it. It's Cam and Skittles. Their timing is just too good right now, and they're tracking right through the builds here. And look, now down to just 5 mats here, finds a down body, wants to get the finish. They get rewarded with that as well. This is easily becoming the biggest game I think we've seen over the course of the last few weeks. Cam's waiting for Dragon to make the edit. Dragon stuck in the box. Cam falls to the storm, and this can actually give the siphon away. So Skittles has to dip off, try to play for the heal off here. Sorry, King there, and Dragon's trying to do the same. Both sides have heals here, Jacob. This could go either way, but it should be Skittles who wins this one here and now, and it will be in the end. Oh, wait a second. Skittles made
you're
it.
Right. No, you're right. It all depends on the goal. The King has been there for a while. He's getting storm sickness. The instant elimination comes in. I was doing my math too. I had to calculate everything going on. That feeling of deja vu was there, but Skittles is able to clutch up at the end of the day. That's going to be a big win and a huge boost of confidence.
You have to do what you have to do to get those wins there. And I was thinking to myself, wait, is my math off? Like, both sides are healing now. But Skittles did do enough in the end there. And, you know, these are teams that needed those points. So game 3 now is wraps there, Zeke.
Did I see that right? Did I see a little 12 elimination game pop up here in game number 3 right now? What the heck are we doing here? Oh my gosh, Cam Slam and Skittles. What the heck? And they're doing the patented Jacob PR. That's why we're gonna name this the Jacob PR. Pay to win situation there with the vending machines. This was a joke. That's crazy. I cannot believe, and as Jacob himself called out right now, to do that here halfway through, big boost of confidence right now. Dude, 12 elim BR. Kelly, what the heck?
I wonder if the PR stands for payroll. The Jacob payroll right now, it definitely seems to be the play. And there was actually a moment there where we were looking at the high ground team of Cam and Skittles, and they were dropping heals, which is what we typically see when it comes down to the final few teams. But I also saw him drop gold, and I was like, haha, that's funny, what a misclick. But no, it was on purpose that he was dropping gold because they knew that this was probably going to come down to a heal off. But honestly, even beyond the heal off, Cam Slam and Skittles played that high ground steal so well. As we watched it, Vivid was like, he just got slammed. And for me, I was like, oh, they're gonna win the game, that's it.
Yeah, he'll also becoming a little bit more prevalent here in the second chance qualifier. And I mean, just big shout out to these guys, because it just looked like the elims couldn't stop here. And you saw Cam there towards the end as well, dropping down, trying to pick up as many elims as possibly can, because he was fully confident in the ability of Skittles to go ahead and win that heal off. Now, no spoilers, but Skittles and Cam came into that game in the 8th place spot. I cannot wait to see how they shook things up with that win right there.
Well, ask and you shall receive it, because it's time to look at the standings after this short break. Don't you go anywhere. Halfway through the see, you already know what I was doing. We'll be right back. You already knew what I was doing. We'll be right back.
Sí, estamos de equipo. Mira, mira, él ya está construido.
Mira aquí.
En el grupo.
En el grupo 1, sí.
No, porque...
No, en el 2, en el 2. Unite uno vos. No, pero así no. Ah, el que está en el 5. Ahí.
Chica, voy a hacer
No, mira, la que vamos. Vamos a unir a este. Que salga uno, que salga uno.
Vale, va a terminar. Ahí te metes rápido, Ya fue, tú ven.
Ya me estoy cogiendo mi arma. ¿Qué es? Se roba. No, vamos. Salimos, ¿no? ¿O no quieres hacer grupo?
Okay,
so we're back.
So we're back. That's right. It's time to look at the standings because right before this break,
Mira.
Skills Cam got themselves a pretty big W. VR with 12 eliminations.
Where do they end?
Where do they end? It's at the top of the leaderboard. Up 7 places. Guys, we have 3 more games to go. That of Kelly could have very well been the run they needed to secure themselves a qualification spot.
It's definitely possible. I think
No
that
son los
we should
creadores
earn
del
just
mapa,
a
dijo
few
que.
more points, just in case, just a little bit, because we got 3 more games to go. We'll handle more points, especially if we see another game out of Skittles and Cam like we did from game number 3. But for me, another little jump up right there. We talk about King Elite and Raze. We know this as an explosive duo, and they definitely were turning things up on the low ground today.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually see it. I do want to talk about the leaderboard in general. Obviously, our top
Standers up there,
Skittles
Skittles
up there,
and Cam, and
Cam,
Liam and Jason.
and Liam and Jason. They've got a pretty surmountable lead. Look how close everything is after we are now halfway through this. 3rd through 10th place is only separated right now by 28 points. So we have an extremely volatile leaderboard here, and one of the duos that's kind of keeping themselves around that 10th place spot. I'm sure they're probably feeling a little bit nervous right now. It's going to be Josh and Yamzo. You can see they did go up 1 place right there. They're going to be in 9th place, but once again, they want to be in that top 7. But it kind of feels like all of these teams that are kind of like 3rd or I would say like 11 are so close to top 7 that they're basically top 7 still.
Oof, Josh, though, in another solo clutch situation for game number 3, definitely not wanting to be here halfway through the tournament right now. The Iamzo and Josh do so well on this mid-ground and the low ground when they are able to stay together, but I do have to give Josh props. I'm not quite certain when Iamzo went down, but Josh definitely garnered them a lot of points just by staying alive, playing it really smart, really patiently.
I mean, dude, that's what we gotta do, right? Like, every single one of these points matter, and like you called out, like, being halfway through, that's only adding more pressure, right? You gotta think like, oh man, if we make a single mistake, this leaderboard, like we call it, that's still so close together. If you fall early,
No lo puedo subir directamente, no
all
es
of
por
them
cosa
start to
mostrarlo.
continue to get points and move that much further ahead of you. Scary stuff. But as we turn back to those standings, though, as well, wanted to highlight Liam and Jace here. These guys are performing so well. Obviously, the first 2 games had some crazy performances. Even in this game, a top 15 with 2 eliminations. Even managing to like piece together a top 15 when you're kind of like your backs are against the wall, maybe things don't quite go your way. That's a positive sign from the duo. So I'm excited to see them kind of showing like, hey, even in these high pressure situations, we can still perform.
No, you're calling it out exactly right. We already saw such great games, the 1st and a 2nd place coming out of them. Right now, they just need to make sure that they're making it to the end game. I don't think that they really need to try and push for another high ground take or a bunch of eliminations. They just need to play some standard Fortnite with 191 points under their belt right now. They would essentially just need around, 60, maybe 70 points to be confident into to go to Dusseldorf. So Vivid, I definitely think that it is possible for them. But we do also see a lot of jump downs from some of our bigger teams. Scare and Osin going down 4 placements. Bucky and Zen on that 10th place spot as well. So we'd love to see some changes. Maybe Bucky and Zen, for me, it definitely seems like I'm watching Clicks and Higgs go again for the grand finals. They're taking these early ground high games, and then obviously when they're below Storm and they're struggling a little bit, it just reflects that much more that they're not able to hold high ground and make it all the way to the very end. So I would just love to see a little bit of a change when it comes to Zen and Bucky, maybe not going for high ground early and kind of backing off and going for the mid ground instead.
Kind of running back their game number 1, right? We kind of tuned in with them. They were in 7th or 8th zone. They were below Surge. Kind of the similar story there in game number 3. The only thing that ended up being different was in game 1, they were able to clutch up. They were able to find that damage that they needed. Game number 3, they could not do that. So definitely need to approach Storm Surge maybe a little bit differently so that way they can consistently, find themselves in 7th and 8th zone, feeling a little bit more comfortable. And we could probably see them back up one night.
All right, guys, halfway through the competition, 3 games left to go, and we can only continue the dream to the summit if we end in the top 7. Now, more than ever, these duos have to make sure they're minimizing these little mistakes or doing everything they can to get every single little point. Here we go. Jacob, MDF, take it away.
I think think they're hitting the nail right on the head, Monsters, showing how close the tournament actually is. They've been set 3rd through 10th place is a mere 38 or so points, and that's where it really gets interesting because we've already seen heats, we've already seen finals positions, and we've already seen so much get decided by 4 or less eliminations, and I think today's going to be no different.
Yeah, and the elims are definitely the most important part here. 4 points is nothing to overlook. So with game number 4 here, let's see how it plays out.
Game 4, the second half of the day. If you want to go to the Major 1 Summit land, you have to start to hit the ground running. And this is where this zone, we've already seen 3 so far, 1 towards the north, 1 towards the southeast, and 1 towards the southwest, a little bit towards Squibbly Shores. And this is where, if you're one of those teams that gets the zone to pull in your favor, you really have to make those games count. Unless you're Liam and Jay so far, every game for them is counting.
Well, it's kind of interesting for Liam and Jace. You know, they're in a position I feel like they've never been in before. Late into a tournament, so much on the line as far as qualification is concerned, and they need to get one big pop-off game. They're still a long way from where they are right now, and technically qualifying as great as they look on the standings. So this is going to be a question of can they perform under pressure at this point, as are some of the other teams. You know, we were looking at that top 10. 7 points is 130. 10th was like 122 or something like that. Like, it was very, very close. So this competition is 2 elims spread between where you are right now and your land spot, right? So there's no one safe right now.
Yeah, essentially, from the top 15, 1 victory royale can kind of put you inside of that bubble. Rising currently, they've had some contested offscores. They've had players lurk their way in. This time around, it is going to be a little bit more uncontested as before. So they're going to be able to loot up. There's a lot of barrels, free shields. They're just on the north side of the map. So hopefully this game maybe continues the trend. The last 2 have been towards the south. This one hopefully pulls towards the north for a lot of those teams. Bucky and Zen, Sandy Strip. It is going to be contested, and each and every game, you've kind of seen a different way of playing this play out. Game 1, they tried to fight it, they disengaged. Game 2, they fight it, they won. Game 3, they kind of did this same strategy, and they were able to carry them long and far into that last game. It's just Storm Surge. They ended up in a bad position, taking height a little bit too early. It really did cost them everything.
Yeah, definitely cost them a ton that round. Yamto and Josh made the best that they could with the last game as well. At least they earned themselves some big points. They kind of really fought their way in an uphill battle after kind of failing themselves in game number 1. Talk about that north zone, though. It doesn't get more north than this. Half the zone's in the water. There you have it.
Gotta be careful for the other teams on the mountain. Don't take free shots. Mason and Aiden, 122 points. Don't want to have things slowing down with going down here, but Symbol of Fear is able to get the first drop on the 1. The overstays as well, come hopping over that cover. He's going to go down, and it does look like Aiden and Mason are going to be able to solidify both of those eliminations. More so Aiden saving the day, but Mason getting some good damage from 122 to 130 thanks to those early game eliminations.
Huge clutch right there to keep them in the game. Massive performance right there. Chris and Drew doing what they do in the early game right now. They have a down body. There goes the finish. His teammate tries to put up some defense there, but just doesn't have enough offense. Let's go ahead and change the circumstance, if you will.
Not necessarily going on the chase just yet. They heard the shockwaves, they saw the direction in which he went in. It's just a matter of if they want to go on a wild goose chase for just one elimination. Especially since Evan and Pure are both up together. Evan and Pure is an interesting team. Evan already Central. Pure actually played the latest FNCS on West, getting the second chance, coming on over to Central, and hopefully kind of making up for it. See how this one continues with 3 games left. Half a tournament, they can easily make up for it, just like CDZ and Raven here, but 28 or so points, they're going to need to get eliminations. Luckily for them, they're not scared of fights. A lot of the times you saw CDZ and Raven, not only in finals, but here today, they're ready to take any fight. It's just about winning those fights that has been the difference.
Yeah, last game was definitely their most successful, so they finally at least got some footing here on the tournament standings, but definitely a long way to go. Ruins and City not as much of a problem as far as where they are overall positioned here. See the updated standings there. 126 being where Bucky and Zen stand. So Sin and Runes are just outside of that. They're watching from outside the glass here. Looking in.
Just like POI's monster, those vending machines, you see a lot of people fight for them, just like if it was part of their drop. Shadow and Virgo making an early rotation towards the western side of the map. They land just south of Frigid Fortress. And typically they can have a chance. Usually this spot is contested on the outskirts with a lot of teams kind of split up, just trying to take whatever loot that they can. It's a whole different tournament. Almost the entire drop from Taki and Verge Frigid Fortress, the ARC and JoJo split drop to Shadow and Virgo themselves, all uncontested. So it's not going to be as easy of a road for them to get their early game surge. But whatever they've been doing so far in this tournament has been working, just like Liam and Jace, but a whole different story here. Start off game 4. Typically see them alive into the end game as a duo. This time there's a lot of pressure on Liam to get his teammate back.
And just highlighting the fact that, hey, you've done well 3 games, but pressure starts to set in right around here. You start looking at how far you still have to go. Enough's never enough. Dragon and Creon, though, from 0 points to 88 really showcases how you can kind of change the entire narrative about an opportunity to make it to land here.
That was a 3rd place with Elims as well. If they can honestly close the game out with a couple more 3rd places, maybe a 5th place, a couple more Elims, they could literally fight for their spot at the Summit land. And the feed, Raven actually getting a couple eliminations here against Kix. You gotta imagine that contested fight over at Sandy Strip. Kix and Bobby, maybe they got pushed off from Bucky, having to get some scraps elsewhere. Either way, that's gonna be Raven and CDZ getting 4 more points. As it does look like Chimp and 20. They got a long rotation to zone, but they know having that HP is gonna be so important, especially with how many lurkers they've been in the zone this season.
It's a good fight to watch right here, because Bucky and Zen need the damage. We already know that they've kind of played this one out a bit more passively than before, but look at this. There's a team lurking here. And Bucky runs past them, and something tells him there might be something up here, and a player jumps out like he expected. That was probably a wall there that he didn't expect to see by the vending machine, and all of a sudden now Zen and Bucky are in a scrappy fight here. Bucky does take some serious damage from CNX and Cormax. Meanwhile, if you look to the north, that team at the Sandy Strip is still listening in.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at the mini map, seeing if that team was going to try to crash down. If not necessarily to join the fight, but at least try to get some third-party shots coming in, but they're content with where they're at now. Bucky and Zen, they have the chance to heal up, get more form of this game of trying to continue to fight this one out. CNX, Cormax, they're just trying to disengage, but I don't think Bucky and Zen are going to give them the option, or at least not just yet, especially now so that Zen lands a huge shot onto Cormax, forcing him back, trying to get the build, burn through any damage that he can. And then CNX on the other side, no damage in terms of the fight, but you see what the Storm is actually doing. Very, very low on HP. They literally have no choice but to shockwave out.
The control here from Bucky and Zen. Even though they could have pushed for those eliminations and they know it, the points are not as important as keeping the damage that they earned right here, because they also recognize that they are very far behind. You know, that was our biggest concern too, is that they were going to need that damage. So they almost even the playing field. Should be coming out positive there off of that exchange. Jumping back in with Osid and Scare though. They kind of had things on lock for a little second, and then last game fell super early to the mid-game surge. They were in 2nd place going into it. They find themselves dropping way down now, kind of back in the middle of the race here. Curly and Rise on the other side, very much situated here. I'm gonna stay in the storm though, trying to see if they find any late rotators.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if they were that team, because we saw one team kind of rotating outside of Sandy, so we know there's at least 3 teams there. I'm sure they got the information because they rotated down from Painted Palm, so instead of going directly to a stacked edge of the zone, they're just trying to wait for any of these stragglers to make a mistake. Jojo Fishy and Aoxy, another team from that Frigid Fortress side of the map, kind of split drop just towards the left in between Wonky and the actual Frigid Fortress. They wasted no time at all rotating over towards this Wonky wheel, because now they got options. No matter where it pulls, a far pull towards the south, they can use that wheel to rotate the slow side of zone, maybe ride it towards the shoreline and try to find their way in. But just like them, so many other teams are making that a part of their strategy, or potentially making it a part.
And sort of mentioning, this is the first full like zone that we've seen start heading towards the north, right? So we are and should see some different teams kind of making it in game, catching us a little bit of relief. But here's one that's not. CDZ just gets pressured down by Zen. Zen's just playing exceptional right now when it comes to these fights. Look at the shot that he lands there onto Raven as well. So everything's starting to connect together for them. Not even sure they know that CDZ actually fell to the storm right there. They're probably trying to kind of download this situation and assess it. They're gonna find out here shortly if they get this Elam though.
Yeah, Raven, he wasn't able to position himself elsewhere, tries to go for a 1v1, but he's just getting surrounded by Bucky and Zen. Options getting closed off. Zen just continuously pressured from one side. Bucky as well. Neither one of them overstepping either. Not giving up any easy shots on over to Raven. There goes the elimination. Finally being cleaned up by Zen. Bucky as well gets that elimination onto Raven. I got to imagine they did a good job getting a good amount of damage on both of those players, but you see how long the fight took. You see Bucky taking a shot there right before it actually ended. So not sure where they stand overall in terms of Storm Surge. But back on over to Wonky Land, where two teams that didn't even land here rotate in, trying to make Wonky Land a part of their own. And you're seeing Jojo, Fishy, and Aoxy as the dust settles. Storm Surge turns on. One team over 600 above, another team 300 below.
Yeah, and counting. It's getting worse here, so Jojo, Aoxy, you're gonna have to fight this one tooth and nail through to the end. But Jojo, a little too aggressive, a little oblivious to the fact that Electra was on the other side, and man, they made that look so easy, and they get rewarded with incredible amounts of loot here with how fast this elimination went through.
Now if they have the gold, it'd almost be like they didn't take a fight at all. A lot of extra heals, good position inside of the zone. See how Electro and Ult fare in this game. They actually need a decent game here. It's the second half of the day. The leaderboard kind of play in their hand about how they get to rotate around this map. 29th place, 42 points so far. They did out of a 10th place in game number 1, just haven't been able to kind of recreate that same scenario. Lightning Flex within contention, Scared Sid inside of the bubble as well. 6th place coming into this game. You talked about their fall from grace, but this is a team where I feel like they've seen it all. They played against the best. They've been a part of some of the most stacked lobbies this season, almost qualifying for the Reload Elite Series as well. So I think they're just one good push, one good game away from clinching their spot.
Most definitely. And talking about that, look at the zone pulling right over the Wonky Land. So now Electro and Oak actually can opt to just eat zone all the way. They have the mending machine. They have all that excess loot. Just doesn't get better for them. Golden, Ozone on the other side, fighting their way into a position right now. They don't want to play in the low ground here, so they're trying to get up and over onto a little bit of terrain here.
This is where we could have potentially interesting zone. You know what I mean? If it goes a little bit more towards the south, but you see the trees that are currently in play, a good portion of those big trees have a huge amount of health. And one thing that we've seen already this season is teams like to go up to the high ground. They attach themselves not to one, but multiple of those trees. Because even if you break the tree itself, Monster, you actually have to break the build that was attached to the tree afterwards before it actually falls. So now imagine connecting to 2, 3, maybe 4 of those trees on high ground throughout the end game. It almost makes it indestructible.
Yeah, we can see some really interesting positioning get set up here. Kingling and Craze right now, 282 above, no points earned this game, but they're sitting pretty at 154. Everything's starting to fall in place for this team here. Still though, 75 players standing in this game right now. King looking to break the tree, trying to open up their sight lines here to see if they can catch anyone trying to exit across, shockwave out, come the next move. Depending on where the zone goes, it's going to be a very difficult zone to navigate. It's a pretty steep cliff here.
You talked about that cliff. My eyes were locked in. I was actually getting the seatbelt ready to buckle, but we barely dodged having to go up that cliff. We're going towards the northwestern part of the map overall. Not too many drastic changes in terms of elevation. If we cut back, maybe we'll start that conversation. But as we tune into Zen and Bucky, well, I mean just Zen because Bucky is down. 35 teams still up, so far away from even the first placement point starting to set in. You add in the fact they're only 103 above the damage threshold. So a lot of those early game fights, sometimes it works out for you, sometimes not so much. Skittles and Clam, winners of that last game. A whole different road for them this time around, 5 below the damage threshold. It might not be much, but you're gonna have to fight for it just like that. And now other teams taking notice. You fall 100 below the damage threshold, and a whole other team starts to rotate in. 20 and Chip, they want a piece of that pie.
That was a huge shot from Cam right there. Talk about having the awareness to not only turn on the team that dives on his teammate, but then find 20. He was late to rotate in. That's going to be the difference maker that keeps him in the game. And they get rewarded with at least a couple of heals and some mats to work with, but have to eat the rest of this pizza here. It's going to be a trade-off before they get going. Just scavenging the land right now, trying to see if Zen actually successfully made the rotate here.